What's up, party people? It's KeysDAN with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time. DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me on your next at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Are you not entertained? Let me entertain you. Oh, I said I'm in the Radio What studios. I guess I'm in the gaming studios, judging by the background. If you're listening to the, watching the video version of this, if you're listening to the audio version, you won't know what I'm talking about. But the video shows me with games in the background. And the reason I'm there is because I'm paying homage to my guests today. Today on the program, I have Landon and Jonny of the Questionable Guide to Life. What is that, you say? Tra-la-la? Well, you're going to find out in the next few minutes, so stick around. This week's shows, as we break out of coronavirus COVID-19, I have one public show every Friday night. This is my public show. I still have a lot of private shows. My one public show is at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas, Friday night, 8 p.m. until 12:30 in the AM. The Video Dance Party Karaoke Jam. Yeah, I said karaoke. You're the stars of the show. We got a little concert starring each and every one of you. Yeah, that's what karaoke is. Oh, what should I sing? You should sing whatever you want. That's what karaoke is all about. We're having fun. I'll hear a country song right next to a pop song, right next to a metal song, right next to Gangnam Style. Whoop-bump. You know, just whatever you want to sing, you sing right there at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. I've been doing that. Oh my goodness, almost since I moved to Arkansas back in 2009. I was, the Rab used to be the Supper Club, the Conway Supper Club, and then it changed to the Rab just quite a few years ago. And man, I've been with them almost ever since, on and off since 2009. So I'm kind of stoked to be in that room, and that I'm happy that they still allow me to do what I do. They got a full bar, the kitchen's open, pool tables. They even got a pool tournament on Friday night. So if you have a good hand at playing pool, you might make some money at the Rab while you're waiting to sing a song on stage right next to me. KeysDAN at the Rab, Conway, Arkansas, 8 until 12:30 in the AM. All right, let's get into it with the Questionable Guide to Lifers. Questionable Guide to Life. I had Jonny and Landon and Jonny on Skype. So if you're listening to the audio version of this, I encourage you to check out the video version at my YouTube page. Yeah, find it. All right, let's Skype the Questionable Guide to Life now.
Hear me now?
Hear me now.
Hey, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Hear me now. Hear me.
Oh, why can I
Let me see it. I'm trying to go through my Yetis. So
I can't hear anybody.
So you just can't hear.
We hear you, but you cannot hear us. Try the headphones.
Yes, we can hear the words that are coming out of your mouth, but we cannot communicate. Right. You know,
it's almost Rob Schneider versus some Canadian guy.
All right.
Oh yeah, 100%. You can do it, eh?
Yeah,
I got it
all night.
All right.
Long.
So we have me and my co-host Jonny here.
Yeah, but I have no visual, man. I like to have the visual as well as the audio. Yeah, that's visual. Right. There's the video.
Am I
it's
sharing
coming.
Video yet or no?
No.
It's
you gotta
coming.
click on the little video icon at the bottom.
Oh, there it is, right there. Look at my awesome blurry house.
Look at
it.
him.
It's so blurry.
Would you just look at him?
Yeah, I live in a really blurry world. I just choose to,
Well, I get it. I think I have it set up to where whoever speaks will be the happy face that gets next to me. So since I put it down as Landon, but I didn't realize I was going to have the Jonny as well. So let me just erase all that, and I'll just make it questionable. The Questionable Guide to Life.
I feel like I'm going to be stealing the face side of this a lot because there's going to be like, my microphone is like always picking something up.
All right. Well, you've been in my ears all day long. You've taught me a few things already. You've taught me that I don't have to fear for the future, the Utes, because you're some cool dudes. You've already taught me some things. You're very even-handed. I know that you say you don't like to get political, but political is a state of mind. Political is I think most people are like, and I'm going to say us, we're in the middle, in the center, centrist.
Oh yeah. It's very important to stay objective and just kind of keep that mindset so that we can really discuss anything that, like, even though it might be a little controversial at times, we're staying objective. So, we're trying to do that so we can carry the conversation on and everything and kind of like explore other people's opinions, really.
Yeah, I talk to all kinds of people on this podcast, and I really enjoy getting the stories from people. Everybody has a story. So I have Landon and Jonny and Landon of the Questionable Guide to Life, and that's pretty much what I've said about you up to now. You are here to explain yourselves, let the people know who you are, and let's start with Landon, since I guess I know your family the best. You live closest to me. Yeah, you live pretty close to me. I'm here in Conway, Arkansas, in my office. I put the gamer background on there just for you guys in homage, because a lot of your podcast is about gaming. And I don't know if I can call myself a gamer. I'll let you explain who you are, and I'll let you know why I don't call myself a gamer because of what you have said on your podcast. Landon, who are you?
So, well, clearly I'm Landon, one of the hosts of the Questionable Guide to Life. And we got the idea to start a podcast quite a while back. And we had a lot of trials and tribulations with that, trying to figure out what we wanted to make the topic about. And then we just kind of fell upon the idea to do a salon-style podcast, so we can talk about anything we want, really. And me and Jonny just work so well together on topics that we can sort of bounce things off of each other. And if there's ever a lull or anything, I can fully trust that Jonny will be able to like pick that up and run with it. And so we've just created this amazing dynamic in this podcast that we're really attempting to make people feel comfortable and like they're part of the conversation in the podcast.
Well, it's nice to have a friend to bounce things off of. I've tried to do these on my own, where I say, well, maybe I'll do a podcast about what's going on in the world. Maybe talk politics, talk about what's in the news, maybe 10 things you need to know today. I've tried that on my own. I do not like it so much. I'd rather have people to bounce ideas off of. I bounce ideas off of you, Landon. And now I'm going to bounce off of you, Jonny Sasquatch in the house. Tell the people who you are.
I am Jonny. I am the world's weirdest, weird, awkward person ever, normally. But, me and Landon, we just have these, great conversations. And one day I was like, you know what? We should just, start a podcast so we can do our weird voices and, the crazy things that we get into together. And then, I'm like a transplant. I live on the West Coast now. I grew up on the East Coast in the DC metro area. So I grew up around all the political stuff, the punk scenes and all of that stuff. So it's all of that stuff, forged me into this person who just forms his own opinions about everything. And I always stress this a lot, even though something that I have personally is an opinion, it's never not subject to change. And that's my whole idea behind Questionable Guide, and what I want to do is I want to establish my opinion and then have it challenged, and then really talk about it with people, what my opinions are. It could be something as stupid as calling a GIF a GIF, or anything like that, and I could talk for hours about it, because I love the old idea of healthy debate with people over the I'm right, you're wrong. Whatever you say is wrong from now on. I don't like that mindset that the youth of America has today. And I was I just want to prove that some of us out here are independent thinkers.
Well, I mean, everybody with an iPhone, everybody with a smartphone, they're stars, man. They're taking so many pictures of themselves, and you've mentioned it that you don't have real conversations anymore. You're talking to the ether, to the internet, to the great, the great beyond, and you have no idea if it's going to go, if the things that you're putting out there are going to stick. But you have to have genuine conversations, develop real friendships. Now, all right, I don't usually do a lot of research for these podcasts, but I have, man. I've listened to your episodes, man. You have 5 of them out there, 5 babies, 5 little episodes that have generated a community following. The last episode, you actually had an extra buddy on there. I think it was it was
first guest.
Landon's friend that came on. But you met, by virtue of what happened last year in the COVID. You met online and you became fast friends. I'm East Coast to the South, to the middle, but you went East Coast all the way to the West Side, Johnny. My brother did that. He's from the Florida Keys, and now he's in Walla Walla, Washington. But where do you find yourself now, Johnny?
So basically backstory of how I ended up out here. I grew up in Virginia. Was born, raised Woodbridge, Virginia, just outside DC. My parents got divorced when I was like teenage years, going into like senior year of high school, due to like my dad. He got arrested on some charges, and they weren't like violent charges or anything. Like I still love my dad to death. But he ended up going, when he got out of jail, he went and moved to North Carolina. So I went down there and moved in with my dad, kind of help him get stabilized again. And then fell in with the wrong crowd, had like a real bad drug habit for a little bit. And I was just like, enough is enough at one point, and decided I wanted to join the Army just to like get clean, basically use it as a free rehab kind of deal. They sent me to Colorado first. I was at Fort Carson for 4 years. And then I re-enlisted while I was on a rotation in Germany. And then they were like, all right, you're going to JBLM, Washington. Enjoy. So that's how I ended up way out here on the West Coast.
Man. Well, that answers one of my questions. You're clean, so to speak. I listened to some of the subject matter on your podcast, and I wonder if it's alcohol or drug induced some of the time. Especially that first podcast. It was a marathon. You went over 2 hours on that one, and it was a good way to introduce yourselves to your listeners and start to build a community. And you said in your second, and I might have been the second or third podcast, that you were already seeing numbers and getting response, and people were giving you artwork pertaining to some of the characters that you envisioned. Into your into the world. You birthed some characters in your 5 episodes, and people are giving you artwork on that. Landon, I mean, tell me what's going on.
So there's a lot of beauty in that, in that it's been so well received. Because I was telling Johnny as we were starting this, we kind of came to this agreement that we're just going to be ourselves and be weird and be open about that, and we're just going to be accepting of each other and everyone else. You've heard the first episode. It's very wild, very all over the place, but that's just us, and that's our humor. And we want people to see that they don't have to be afraid to be themselves.
I think those are my favorite podcasts. I listen all day long. I drive around Russellville. My day job, I get to drive around, and I know one of you was it might have been Johnny, was a delivery guy. He used to drive around as well. Yeah, working for some corporate people that may or may not be sponsors now, and hopefully they hear your podcast and start throwing some money at you. But I get to drive around and listen to podcasts, and some of my favorite ones are the ones where you're a fly on the wall listening to a conversation that you find interesting, and if you guys find it interesting, somebody else is going to as well. So is there any real structure? Are you writing anything down? Are you making copy points? Because I know you were trying to.
Actually
in the last one.
We had no notes in the first one.
Okay.
And in this most previous one, our guest was actually very last second. We were just talking back and forth, and we were like, you know what? Let's bring someone on. We have a couple friends that we know can just vamp really well. And actually our last guest in episode 5 is our DM for Dungeons and Dragons. And so we knew that he was going to be really good at just coming up with things off the top of his head, and he did wonderfully.
Man, I've never gotten into Dungeons and Dragons. I am aware that there's a game out there that people play and get sucked into for months and months and sometimes years of their life get devoted to this and into their 20s. And what happened to my 20s? Oh, it's all gone. I was on a campaign as an elf or a dwarf or something, you know. Are you both playing these Dungeons and Dragons games, real life games as well as video? Group. Okay. Yeah. And you're still playing them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Every Monday, actually, we get together around like 9 or 10 o'clock. And last night, actually, we played for, I think, 4 or 5 hours. And there's a very large group of us. I think there are between 8 and 10 people in that group. And everyone works so well together to create like this weird, strange group dynamic from like all these different characters that we've created. But we have just this vast amount of personalities that we can bring forward into these. And I think everyone really shines when we all work together in that way.
And this is all online, Jonny. Is this is all online?
Oh yeah. So we use a website. It's called Roll20. It was designed. I don't remember when it was designed. It was pre-COVID that it was designed, but it was because of people not being able to find Dungeons and Dragons games locally on tabletops and stuff like that. They created a virtual tabletop essentially. So it's like a Skype call like this. But you have your DM can like put up a map and like put your player tokens on the map in front of you, and you can play D&D from the comfort of your home instead of having to go to some random Dungeons and Dragons bar and sit in somebody's basement. And you can play with people you otherwise would be hesitant to play with because you're like, I don't really want this person in my house, so it's like it's very. And then it's just it and the thing that I love about Dungeons and Dragons is like, even though like, because I have a very busy like life, right? And I always had that misconception about Dungeons and Dragons that you had to like let it consume you, because that was the propaganda of the late 80s, early 90s that they pushed so hard, was that Dungeons and Dragons will ruin your life. You're praising the devil, sort of stuff. And but it's just you dedicate like 2 or 3 hours, like one day a week. And you get to just enjoy somebody else's world. And that's like the really fun part about it.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do with video games, is not let it consume my life. I didn't play video games for the longest time. I mean, Atari 2600 back in the 80s, I'm class of 86. So I'm an older man right now. But, I enjoyed the 40 games that I had. And yeah, I'm humble bragging. I had 40 games on the Atari 2600. My dad was an electronics engineer, so he pirated some of the games. He came up with the chips, and all you had to do was change the CPUs and the cartridge, and you had a different game. It was great. Defender was my game.
That's amazing.
But I hadn't played since then, and now. I got married, and my wife and kid, they both asked for Switches, and then I lost them. They both have their Switches, and then what do I do now? Just twiddle my thumbs while they're playing Switch?
I guess it's time to get a Switch.
While they're Animal Crossing? So no. And I'm going to be controversial on your world. I play a lot of Fortnite. Yes, I do. And I stream it online. In fact, the software that I'm using right now is the same software that I use to stream online. I'm a streamer, everybody. There, I said it.
I don't really see a problem with Fortnite personally. It's anybody who's willing to make a game, right? They're willing to spend the hours and hours and time and dedication to make a game and then release it for free. I don't have a problem with you playing that game.
And even if it's a game that like I don't really care for, like we've expressed that we don't really care for Fortnite on the podcast, but there's nothing wrong with enjoying it. There's nothing wrong with it being something that you like get pleasure out of, because, whether or not it's something that I care for, I'm just glad that you're enjoying yourself and having fun.
Well, the only time I really have fun is when I win the solo battle royale, when I get a victory, and that's few and far between. I think I've gotten 30 since September, and I'm like, every time, number 2, number 76, number 99, number 1, yes, then you win. You get that adrenaline, and you mentioned that video games give you the same high that a jet fighter gets, right? In one of your episodes, you mentioned that.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't remember who did this study. It was a university study where they were actually trying to prove that video games were bad for you, was the actual goal of it, right? But then when they actually did the brain tests and hooked everybody up to the machines, they were finding that you were getting brain chemistry happening that was the same, a level of effect as, flying a plane or, doing really demanding high stakes tasks that people are like, oh, there's no way I could do that. But then you play a video game and you have the same chemicals running through your brain.
Oh, I fully know that my blood pressure shoots way up, and I'm in my heart attack years, so I got to be careful with that. So I have tried to limit myself. I think the longest stream that I did was 12 hours. I don't think I'm going to do that again.
Oh, man.
I try to do 2 hours, maybe 1 hour, and then go find something else to do. I'm an old man with a family. I can go out and work in the yard. I got to keep my grass up, Get off my lawn. Get off my lawn. But,
what were you streaming for that 12 hours?
Fortnite. But,
man.
I did try Avengers. I bought Marvel's Avengers. I didn't like it. It was a lot of waiting around. World of Warcraft, I have it downloaded. I have a Stream Deck that shows me all the games I have here, and there's too numerous to mention, but I've delved into them. The only one that's stuck is Fortnite, man. That's the one that you jump in, you go, beat up a bunch of avatars, and then I got killed. Yeah, do it again. Wrong, do it again. But you're doing Dungeons and Dragons, man. But you're doing that once a week for 4 hours. You've definitely given yourself a time schedule. This is my game time. This is my social time. This is when I get together with my boys. Is it all boys?
No, actually, I think there are now 2 girls.
2 girls? What?
Yeah. Well, our generation is all about the nostalgia games. So whether it's our nostalgia or somebody else's nostalgia, like D&D had a really big resurgence recently in the late 2000s to the 2010s. Because there was a group of voice actors. They go by the name Critical Role. And they have a YouTube channel and they stream on Twitch, and it's a bunch of voice actors playing D&D. And that's what it is. And it was right around the time that Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition dropped. And all these young people found this through Twitch streaming and through YouTube videos and stuff. And they're all wow, I never knew that this was this crazy. And then there was a huge boom of people that just flocked to Dungeons and Dragons afterwards.
I dig it. And Stranger Things must have helped out in that respect as well, the show on Netflix, right?
Oh, Stranger Things. All right. So I love the fact that they have D&D in the show, but the D&D that they play is not Dungeons and Dragons in any way, shape, or form, because they're literally just rolling D6s. They're like, yeah, man. And you're like, no, that's not.
I'm duped. I was duped. They got me. I enjoyed that show so much. And, the D&D, I thought, well, maybe they're playing D&D or some kind of it.
Well, I mean, they get the monsters, right? The Demogorgon exists, Mind Flayers exist, all that stuff exists. But when they're actually physically playing D&D, they're not physically playing D&D on the show.
All right. I get sucked in by Netflix. I saw the chess show on a different tangent. And from what I understand, the chess in that show was real. The moves were real when they were playing the games. And even when she was watching on the ceiling, the Queen's Gambit,
Queen's
right?
Gambit.
Yeah, they were watching on the ceiling, and she was kind of thinking about the moves. People that play chess were saying, "Oh, those are real moves," and I went, "Yes, all right, they got some accuracy." And I think that's one thing that people are demanding in films. Maybe not the superhero films, because how accurate can a fantasy be, right? But in regular films, people are demanding that accuracy. But all right, Landon, tell me about your family, man. How are they doing, and what is going on with the Whisnant family? And I know I butchered your last name.
They're good. I actually live in Missouri now.
What?
So
I thought you were in Malton.
I'm another state away. This was a very recent development, actually. My brother runs a store up here, and he just had his first kid. He was real nervous about that, and he was like, "We have our own business now, and now we have a baby, and I got to balance having a marriage on top of that." So I was like, I can come help you. And everything just kind of went so well that they were like, "We want to keep you here at the store." And so I made the move down here, and there are actually still people that message me and they're like, "Hey, you want to hang out sometime?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I live 4 hours away." So, and then they're shocked.
Well, Landon, are you living in the back room of said shop? And plugs.
Oh no, actually, it's called Lucky Lens in Springfield, Missouri. I actually live with my brother right now until I get enough to afford my own place, and I'm in their guest room as of right now.
It's a closet.
But I have my whole setup. I have my TV from home, so like everything's very comfortable here.
All right. Well, I mean, I see you have a good microphone set up, and you sound great, man. And that's another thing that your podcast has done is in the episodes you can progressively hear quality. And that's one thing that podcasters do is you're going to be spending some cash if you want to get the good sound. So, give the brag on the equipment that you're using. What do you have in front of you there?
So I'm actually using an Al Powell microphone, and I have an entire separate soundboard and everything. So like I have a little John button that I like to use a lot. I have an echo. So like there's a lot of different things I can do with this. It's a voice changer. It's amazing, actually.
Well, man, I think I messed up.
Johnny's using a Yeti.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I use a Yeti X for my microphone, and then I have software on my computer so that I can do the same things that Landon does with his hardware, but like on a budget. So I use a voice modulator. It's voicemod.com is how you download it. It's got custom soundboards, so like I can get like all sorts of sound effects. I don't have it hooked up to Skype right now, or I'd play around with it like he did too. But so like I just the first podcast was kind of like spur of the moment, and I didn't have my mic yet. So in our first podcast, my audio quality is a little low because I'm using this headset instead of my microphone. But at the same time, I was like, it didn't really matter because it was the subject matter we talked about. I found like if you have really strong subject matter and you have a really good chemistry with your host, they don't really care what it sounds like. They just care that they're there to experience it. So
and that first podcast was very personal, and I think that it kind of overshadowed what our audio quality was at the time. Just the reaction we've gotten from that first episode has been amazing.
Yeah, it's a little hint, a little delve into your lives and what you think about. And yeah, you're in the middle where most people live. The people on the far right and the people on the far left are the ones that are causing these problems in the world. Come on down the middle. Everybody wants roof over their head, food on the plate, little money in their pocket. That's pretty much it. And trying to all I can do is take care of me, take care of my family, try to help out in the community, but my range is not much further than that. I don't know what else I can do. I can think globally, but I got to act locally. That's something we used to say back in the day. But what are your thoughts?
So actually with the questionable guide, I think the whole thing for me, as far as content creation in general goes, is I just want people to laugh and I want to make people smile. And even if we don't make a whole lot of money off of it, even if we don't get all these like sponsorships or any of that, at the end of the day, if I'm making someone laugh and I'm making someone smile and give someone a reason to wake up in the morning even, then that's good enough for me.
Well, I mean, your first episode, you were sponsored by water. That's big.
Yeah,
that's huge. There's water everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's everyone knows
we have
water.
so many of those recurring jokes that we've like made up. Every podcast we have a fake sponsor. Pretty much, we're like, like this pod. We had this one joke where like, because everything is sponsored by that game Raid Shadow Legends. We were like, we're just gonna start randomly dropping Raid Shadow Legends references in podcasts out of nowhere and see if we could just pick up a sponsor. And then the other one is we assume at all times that everybody in the world is listening to the podcast.
Yeah, that's why we do that. Is like we know they're listening right now. Get back to us. We say that constantly, and we'll be
like Donald Trump. I know you're listening, so this is what we have. And it's like,
yeah.
Well, I mean, everybody knows this podcast is performed before a live studio audience, and then do I have to shoot somebody? What is that? Are you shooting each other? What's going on there?
Oh, yeah. So when we made that intro, Johnny pitched the idea for the live studio audience thing, and then we were going to do the whole "Hey Johnny, hey Landon" thing, and then fade out from that, and then just spur of the moment, I was like, "What if we put a gunshot at the end?" And so it's just very up in the air what's actually happening right there. But every time I listen to it, I laugh.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's the important part there.
And way before your time. That's a throwback to Dynasty, Who Shot JR. You may not even know about that. The guy who played in I Dream of Jeannie was in a show called Dynasty. And then one episode at the end of the season, they shot the main guy. And they're like, who shot JR? So for the whole time between seasons, and I know there's no seasons anymore, for the most part. People are binging like 12 and 13 and 20 episodes at a time. But
I'm guilty of that myself.
Oh, who isn't?
I do that.
Who isn't? Yeah. And Netflix shortened the time. It used to be 26 seconds. Now it's 8 seconds to the next show. Don't go to sleep yet. Don't go to sleep yet.
See, that actually kind of bothers me, the whole like they shortened the timer between episodes thing. Because it's like it should be I hit a button to go to the next episode. Because if I want to see who an actor was in the episode and the credits skip themselves, I'm really mad at it. Like,
well, you gotta work hard to see the credits, and I love the credits. I love seeing who was part of that. And I remember one episode you said that you picked out a voice actor. You said, "Oh, was that the voice actor?" And he was involved also with the comics, with the umbrella, and you changed your mind the second. It wasn't the Runaways.
Oh yeah, our first
my first mistake.
Yeah, it wasn't the Runaways. It was what was it?
It's the Fabulous Lives of the Killjoys.
Well, tell me about that, man. Tell me about the Killjoys, because I'm not familiar with that.
So what it was is there's a emo band in the early 2000s, emo pop punk band in the early 2000s called My Chemical Romance, which is basically like the queen of our generation. It's the easiest way to put it. They were massive, and they produced like some of the most iconic songs from our generation. But the lead singer of that band was always really into comic books. So after the band broke up, he immediately went into writing comic books. So he's the author of, I think it's like The Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys is the name of the actual comic. I don't know the full title. I just call it Killjoys because I don't want to mess it up. But he ended up writing it. And then when the band they kind of wanted to like make another album. So they made another album called Danger Days, and all of the music videos for that album are pulled directly from his comic book, The Killjoys. So it's like a continuated story of the Killjoys through music. So it's like its own standalone thing because the band, when they first started, they're like, we're going to do 3 albums and call it quits. Like they had that plan from the start. They're like, they were going to do our first album, which is like our intro album. Then we're going to do the one for the teenagers, and then we're going to do one that's just like our magnum opus, and we're going to call it done. So like a lot of people try to be like, oh, well, the rest of their discography is like awesome, and this one album is like, it's like it's not part of their discography, really. If you really think about it, they left a big gap in there, and then their last album is just here you go, here's some creative stuff to keep you going. Like that was, and I love his work. He's a very good author. He's a very good storyteller. He gets really good artists to work on the artwork for it. I mean, obviously, it's great if Netflix made a show out of his second comic.
Yeah, you're hitting on. It's just bonus features on a DVD disc is what he gave you with that last album. Now, you hit on my heartstrings. Queen, my favorite. I had 13 of their albums, and yes, albums. I've been a DJ since '86, so I had the 12-inch records that had the artwork, that had the liner notes, that had some of the information that you just spit out about My Chemical Romance that would have been on the liner notes of their albums. Where did you get that information? Is that something you read on their website or what?
Growing up as a kid, I came from a very musical area. So like I'm a musician, all my friends were musicians. My neighbor growing up across the street from me was on American Idol, Joey Cook. I don't know if you watched that season, but she like played the accordion on American Idol and stuff. And music's always been such a huge part of my life because my grandfather was a radio DJ. He was a lounge singer. He was and stuff like that. Whenever I hear a song, I look up the artist. I try to find all the information I can about them, just in any way, shape, or form. And then I watch a lot of interviews. I watch podcast interviews of people. One of my favorite podcasts is the lead singer of a band called Effed Up. I'm not going to say the cuss word. The lead singer of a band called Effed Up. His name is Damian Abraham. He runs a podcast called Turned Out a Punk, where he interviews people who were, not necessarily musicians in punk, but, just had their life affected by punk in some way. And they tell all these stories about meeting all these punk bands and how these people are and stuff. So I don't know. I love finding out the backstory to everything. I don't like just listening to the song at face value and not figuring out what they meant by it,
Putting it on my feed now. And as a radio DJ who's worked in several different genres in South Florida and even in Little Rock, Arkansas, having that information, especially on a music station, that you could spit out a little fast fact about that musician or that band before you put their record on the air. Yeah, anybody can go and buy the record and play it on at their own home. But the advantage of the radio is that, you get a little extra information. It gives you a little entertainment. And hopefully that's what podcasts are becoming. It's radio that you consume at your own pace, at your own time, like a Netflix show. And I keep saying Netflix, sponsor me. Sponsor us.
Us too.
Yeah, we'll take a Netflix sponsorship.
What was the name of that? Because I'm going to put it on my feed now.
Oh, the name of the podcast I was talking about?
Uh-huh.
It's Turned Out a Punk with Damian Abraham.
Turned Down a Punk.
Turned Out a Punk.
Okay.
Out, outward.
Turned Out a Punk.
Yeah, and it's sponsored by Vans. Vans pays for the whole thing. It's really good.
Damn, Daniel. This is Daniel. How many times did I get that? When that stupid video came out. I'm Daniel, and yeah, back at it
okay.
again.
I get Little Johnny jokes all the time.
Little Johnny Sasquatch.
Yeah.
So all right. So are you Johnny Sasquatch to everyone, or is that a persona you came up with for the podcast?
So my last name is actually really hard to say for people. It's spelled. I have a very German last name. My last name is Schwentner. It's spelled Schwentner, and people cannot say it. But I'm a really hairy dude. So my buddies used to call me the Sasquatch every once in a while in the army because I was just a hairy ass dude. And then when I started gaming really heavily, it was my gamer tag was Johnny Sasquatch because it just stuck. And then it's just super easy to say, and I just wanted to make it so that people weren't like, yo, who's that Johnny Schweimer guy?
That's actually how I came up with Give Me Your Lemon as my username for everything, because my last name's so impossible to say. I get some of the wildest guesses at it. It's pronounced Whisnant, but I hear Wizenhunt, Wisenant, and all these crazy ones. And so I was just trying to figure out what to call myself when I'm making content. And I was actually watching the show Adventure Time. And the character Lemon Grab comes on, and his wild, erratic personality just really spoke to me. And so Give Me Your Lemon is actually a play on Lemon Grab.
Okay. Well, it's good to brand
7
yourself.
years now.
Yeah, it's good to brand yourself. KeysDAN.
Yeah.
I'm from the Florida Keys. Here I am in Arkansas. I can't give it up. I have 500,000 pages on my website. I'm not giving it up, and everything is KeysDAN. So that's how you. I mean, that's how the world is right now. It's branding. It's if you can get a name that could become a household. And I don't think it's now. It's been forever and ever. Hey, it's a household name. That's what. That's what people used to say back in the 40s. See, yeah.
My grandfather actually had a stage name too as a DJ because he's got the same last name as me. So his name is Bill Clifford. That was his name. He actually was a radio DJ in Florida as well. Like that's where he, because my dad's from Ocala. He was born in Ocala, and they family of 6 kids.
Yeah.
So he's working as a radio DJ, feeding 6 kids, and you know how that pay would work.
Yeah, there's no pay in radio, and only a handful, maybe 2 handfuls, have made $1 million a year doing radio. Howard Stern being one, and Casey Kasem, and all. The names that the names that everybody knows when you think about radio. But I'm familiar with Ocala. I went to fire school in Ocala, so yeah, in my 20s, I was a firefighter down in the Florida Keys. So yeah, I enjoyed Ocala. It was country. There's people in Florida, especially South Florida, are pretty snobby about what they call Florida. South Florida is a whole lot different than the rest of Florida. South of West Palm Beach is really South Florida. The rest of Florida might as well be South Georgia or South Alabama.
It's Floribama.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh yeah. I had this whole not even really a debate with one of my buddies from Florida. Actually, he also plays D&D with me and Johnny. And he's constantly calling where he's at in Florida the South. And I just keep telling him, like, that's the East Coast. And he's like, no, it's the South. Because he's like in way southern Florida. And he's passionate about it.
Yeah, in Miami.
I've noticed our buddy from Tampa doesn't even care. He's just like, East Coast.
Yeah, when I tell people I'm from Miami, that's even more south. No, you're a Yankee from Miami. The biggest whine in New York is, I want to go to Florida.
Hey, my favorite joke about Florida, there was a metalcore band called Under Oath that was from Florida, and they made a T-shirt line at one point. There was a joke on Florida being like a massive retirement community, and it was just a picture of Florida, and it said, Florida, where America goes to die.
That is absolutely correct. And in particular, before 1980, before the Cubans, the Marielitos really took hold, I'm Cuban from Miami, so I know a lot about the culture. So don't embarrass my culture. But Tony Montana, that's for real, man. Cocaine made that place into what it is today. Because previous in the 1970s, that's it. Old people went to die. And now if you go to South Beach, which is the strip in Florida, South Beach in Miami, you'll see high rise, old guy's house. High rise, old guy's house. And there's, probably an old guy and maybe a couple of old guys just sitting there having a little drink. And meanwhile, the corporations are waiting for them to die so they can build a high rise. Right on South Beach. It was a place to go. But being where you are, and I mean, Landon, do you feel like that's where you want to be the rest of your life? And is it Missouri?
Yeah, Missouri. So I'm actually not certain at this point. I'm really enjoying the work. I'm making decent money now. Like everything's really good here. My only real issue is, I will say of Springfield, there are a very large amount of drug addicts here.
What you talking about?
It's not strange to pull up to the parking lot and see someone that's just like darting around in their car, just looking around like real sketched out because they're tweaking. It's just a constant thing. And I don't know that I really enjoy being around all that. But I would say if the podcast really picks up and it becomes like a living and all the content we create starts generating more revenue, I'd like to get to a point where me and Jonny can be in like the same place. And it doesn't matter to me where that is, because my location doesn't really matter all that much to me. That's why I was able to just jump from Arkansas like that, because it's about the people that I surround myself with. And even if they happen to be online, like that's what's important to me, that I still do have my sense of community.
I mean, same thing for me. I was working on the radio down in South Florida, in Miami, and my wife missed her family. They're from Arkansas and Harrison, Jasper, but they settled here in the Conway area. And she said, "Well, you could do radio anywhere, can't you? You could be a DJ anywhere, can't you?" Yeah, but then I have to start all over at 40 years old. I mean, it's nice to already be settled and have your life in order by that time, but then to start all over again. And I've done it. I'm 52 now, and I'm back in the DJ business. And hey, here I am talking into a mic and to some cool fellas from the Questionable Guide to Life. Was that a reset? Did I just take myself to terrestrial radio? You don't have to reset on podcast. People can read what they're watching, right?
Yeah, so I think that's like another one of the things that's so beautiful about podcasts becoming more popular is you have people that have worked in radio for a long time that kind of fell out of that chance to work in radio because there's not a lot of money in it anymore. And actually, I read this article. People have been doing a lot of statistics on podcasts. And right now, podcasts are sitting at about where YouTube was in 2006. And so within the next 10 years, we're looking at a crazy exponential growth in podcasts. So us getting down on the ground floor was like such a great opportunity. And I'm glad that people like you that have worked in radio for such a long time also have a place to like make your voice heard.
Well, you were talking about the games being the grind, and I think the podcasting is a grind too. Even
absolutely.
The great Joe Rogan didn't make any money for the first 3 years, and he was a movie actor, a movie star that just decided to talk into mics and put it out on whatever platform was available way back then. But, and we have so much more opportunity now putting out. I mean, now I guess you could put your podcast out for free and have it all over the place and still get sponsors. And I'm almost going to do an ad for my Anchor, free podcast app, but I tell people when they want to make a podcast and they don't know how to host it, I send them there. I mean, it's free. I paid for hosting.
Well, the other thing about podcasts that I like, it is both tough and beautiful at the same time for podcasts is if you make a really, really, really good podcast, right? You just got to let it sit. Like you can't harass people with it. You can't, you just enjoy the audience you have now. And that audience will gain you more audience because they're going to be like, hey, dude, check out this podcast I've been listening to for a while. Like, it's really cool. And then that person tells their 8 friends and that person tells their 8 friends. So like, yeah, while we got a huge amount of listens on our first podcast, like that's the people who are just coming to check you out. Right. And then it went down with the rest of the episodes, but we're holding steady with those same 40 to 50 people that like really enjoy our cast. And I'm like, as long as I have 3 listeners, I'm still going to make this podcast because like for me, it's like, it was never, this is my road to fame. This is my road to being important. It was just, these are my feelings. This is my diary. This is my best friend, Landon. We're going to talk. Like that's just been the whole plan the whole time. And the other thing is like just getting noticed as a podcast is very difficult because there's a lot of people who are like, I'm going to make a podcast. And then it's just them having like an awkward rant about something. And you're like, well, I'm not talking like bad on those podcasts. Like there's an audience for every podcast, but like being found as one that's like, hey, this is our love child in a sea of, hey, I'm trying to cash in is very hard.
Well, and this podcast for me is really selfish on my part because I like learning from people. I like having genuine conversations. And about 2 or 3 years ago, I don't remember when to the beginning of 2019, I realized I don't have a lot of friends, real friends. And men back in the 40s used to go to the bar after work and go have a couple drinks with the boys. Or have a Tuesday night card night. You still do Dungeons and Dragons, which is great. You have developed those relationships as men, but as adult men, for the most part, man, if you got one real friend, one or two boys that you can say, "Hey, we're going fishing this weekend," or bowling, or whatever, then you're winning. Because I don't think that those friendships like we used to have way back when, like a grandpa used to have, are the same anymore. It's not there.
Yeah, I think it's very beneficial for people of our generation to have the things that we have because, like we said in a previous podcast, me and Johnny met through all these online communities and through video games. And so our version of going out to the bar with the guys is like after work, I hop on my computer and I get on Discord, and me and Johnny and whoever else might join us that night will just hop on any game we're really feeling like, or some nights we actually just sit here and just talk, and we have that outlet. And I feel like with a lot of like older men, like they haven't really been introduced to and like had it accepted, these online communities and like forging these like friendships online. Like Johnny's my best friend and we've never even met in person, and we have that. And like a lot of people like older than us really don't. So I feel like it's very beneficial that like we kind of grew up in that online era.
And I always make the joke. My most played game on my Xbox is home screen because I'm just in the party with the boys. I'm not even playing a game. I'll jump in and like talk to the guys in the party, and I'll just be like doing one of my everyday stuff with my microphone on my head. Just walk around my house, doing the dishes, making some food or whatever. But the running joke is like my most played game on Xbox is home screen, which is just, I booted up the console and jumped in a party.
All right. Xbox is the only gaming console I probably don't have. I have, PS4 and PS2 and the PC and the Switches, of course, are in the house. The bane of my existence. I've lost my family to the Switch. And I don't want to get one because I do my games on PC. Although I think there's a PC console coming out. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, the Steam Deck. I'm actually really excited about it. I've looked a lot into this because I really try to keep up with like current consoles and current tech. And I think what Steam is doing with the Steam Deck is genius because they have taken essentially the Switch model and made it to where every more expensive version of that console is just more memory. And so you can buy the base model version of it and just go get like a Walmart SD card and you've got a PC right there. And they're going to create a deck for it actually. So you can connect it to a monitor and you've got a full PC right there that you've dropped maybe $500 on, and you're running at the performance of like $1,000 rigs. So it's made it more accessible. And I think accessibility is the most important thing that we have as of now. Cause like the world's crazy still. Everything's exploding, crazy wars going on, and some people are still stuck at home. And so opening up those ways of social interaction through releasing consoles like this is genius. And I love what Valve does because they always bring something new to the table, really. Like people were having a lot of issues with VR, having so many wires and being so inaccessible. And so Valve made the Valve Index, and it's a wireless VR headset that connects to your Steam library, and it just makes everything super streamlined. So I just love really smart technical advances that open up the social aspect of gaming.
So what you're saying is you don't have to have a monitor. You'll have some goggles that you'll be able to use as your monitor and go play with your Steam Deck, just walking around the house.
Yeah.
Look at him with his Oculus. Is that Oculus?
Yeah,
I
it's
guess?
an Oculus. Yeah, so it's just like that. Yeah.
Fantastic, man. Well, Johnny, he mentioned that we're having wars all over the world, and you've been in the Army. My brother was in the Navy for 6 years, way back when. I mean, what do you think about what's going on in Afghanistan, current events?
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and say this first. This is hold on, my kitty cat's in the way. What's up, buddy? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and say this. This is just my opinion. This is not the opinion of the U.S. military. I have to forego and say that this is my personal and only my opinion. Okay, I am not a representative of the U.S. government. I am not a representative of the U.S. Army. I have to preface that because I like, being alive. But my idea with Afghanistan, I understand both ends of the spectrum with the Afghanistan issue. A lot of vets are very let's go in and slaughter them all because their friends died over in Afghanistan years and years ago. And they're like, well, if we let the Taliban take back Afghanistan, what was the point of my friend's life? But my personal belief is we shouldn't have been there in the first place. It's the first world bully idea I don't like. The first world we have to fix the world idea I don't enjoy. Because we are going over there to help, quote unquote, help these countries, right? To stabilize them, right? But if they ever truly got stabilized, then we wouldn't have access to their resources. We wouldn't be able to literally go in under the guise of aid and steal their oil out from under them and things like that. And for me, it's I will do it if I have to because it is my job, it is my orders, and that is that when I show up to work in the Army, my personal politics stay in the car.
Yeah.
I don't care if I'm working under a Democratic president, a Republican president, an independent president. I don't care what my orders are as long as they are not to harm an American citizen or unlawful in nature. I'm gonna I'm gonna do what I'm told. That's just how it has to be. But at the same time, I don't have to agree with it.
Yeah, back in 2001, when I first heard about this, is that me or you? Oh,
I think
okay.
it was Landon.
Sorry about that. No, when I first heard that we were going to go to war in Afghanistan, one of the things that came out was that nobody's ever won a war in Afghanistan in thousands and thousands of years in that area. It's so fortified. I guess there's mountainous area. It must be like Switzerland, I guess.
Well, the whole reason why you can't win that war is idealism. It's not because of fortification or anything like. It's the Middle East. The Middle East has been at war since before the birth of Christ. Okay, the Middle East has been at war for hundreds and thousands upon thousands of years, and that war will never end. It will never end. It is a desert for a reason. It is where people go to fight each other. And it's. As much as I love the idea of world peace and I love the idea of community and brotherly love and all of that stuff, I still understand a losing battle when I see one. And it's a losing battle to think that you will ever bring peace to the Middle East. You can bring a calm. And make it more of a diplomatic fight between them. But eventually somebody's ideologies are going to radicalize and it's going to start the cycle all back over again. Yeah. And a lot of this I need to be the hero stuff is traced back to the Roman Catholic Church with the Crusades. Where it's if you're not a Christian, we're going to force you to be Christian. That whole crusade started this holy war that we've been in for hundreds of years. And now it's become it's not a holy war, it's a stabilization war, but at the same time, it's the same war. It's just a different face.
It's medieval, man. It's medieval. It's still the same war that they've been hundreds of thousands of years. Have we been around that long? The Earth is only 6,000 years old, right?
Yeah, I don't. I just
yeah.
I don't even think about. For me, it's I'm not worried about the time frame of humanity. It's just that if I look at any history book ever. And I flip to any era of history, somebody's fighting somebody in the Middle East.
Absolutely right. I don't want to play in that sandbox. It's terrible. And next you're going to tell me you're globers, right? Everybody knows the Earth is flat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just went to the edge just a few weeks ago, and also, but here's my theory. You know how I know the world isn't flat? Because if the world was flat, cats would have knocked everything off the side of it already.
You better believe it with your kitty cat. What cat
Are we good
name?
audio-wise now?
I can hear you, Landon.
A lot of things. Okay.
What is the cat's name?
My cat's named after the star winger for the Washington Capitals, Ovechkin. So,
Okay, why did you saddle him with that moniker? That's terrible. Come on,
I call it. His name's Ovi. That's what we call it.
All right.
No, it's just. So I actually had 3 cats at one point. I had a female cat named Gypsy, and we named her Gypsy because she was just like, she was weird. Like she was a weird cat. And then they had her and Ovi had a litter of kittens.
Wait, shots fired on the gypsies. Okay.
No, I'm not shooting fire on the gypsies. I'm just saying like she was different. Different is good. It's not bad, but she was different. So they ended up having a litter of kittens, and we kept one of the kittens for a little while, and I named him after another hockey player, Tom Wilson, and we called him Tommy Boy, Tomcat. And then eventually we ended up getting rid of Gypsy because she kept marking stuff. And then we had a friend, like an old guy, who really like needed a companion because, he was just so lonely or whatever. So we ended up giving him Tommy. And then he was like the world's biggest stoner. So his name was no longer Tom Wilson. It was now Tommy Chong. So yeah. And then now I've just got this little white guy here just hanging out. So
stands to reason. Hey, Landon, you and your brother and your sister-in-law got pets? I think they got a bear, maybe a Sasquatch over there. Mosquatch? What was the thing?
Mothsquatch. The story of Mothsquatch. Yeah, that's one of the stories that we get the most feedback on, honestly. Of like, oh my god, that was so funny. I was like, and the funny thing was like everything, like the Gaia thing we had in there, like that was all planned or whatever. But everything from that point on was just us riffing, and like we have this capability. Like when we riff, we're just like, we're gonna create an entire world out of one stupid joke, like. And we don't care how far we drag it or how ridiculous it
it.
Landon's in a windstorm.
Oh, we almost got him there for a second.
I'm not editing any of this. No problem. Maybe I'll cut the breaths out, possibly, on the audio version. The video version, raw, baby. I'll leave it raw.
Oh, yeah. So, no, all right, so we have this, we edit our podcast, right? But when we edit ours, there's really not much we have to edit out. We have, because we have a system it's just an innate system. It's not something that we've pre-planned or anything, but we have this thing, we call it the but-ums. Yeah. One of us will start saying something and they'll say it. And then when the other one has an opinion, we'll always say like the first 2 words of what we want to say and then stop talking. And then the other person tapers out, and the other one says their statement, and then we just edit out those first 2 words in post so that you can hear the message. If it doesn't affect hearing the podcast or hearing the message, we just leave it in there.
And that's how the sausage is made. I like it, man. See, I run this through the audio portion will be on Adobe Audition, and I just found out after using Cool Edit, which became Adobe Audition for years and years, I found out that there's a button that you just do it on the drop down. It says delete silence. Bam! All the silence is deleted on the audio version. I never knew that. Here I am cutting the breaths out one by one. Cut, like I was using audio tape. No, now I can do it all in one foul swoop, and I'll do that for us here on this podcast.
We still do cuts because sometimes we have silence that we leave in there on purpose between bits and stuff. Like just to let it hit home a little harder. You'll say like a funny joke and then just leave a gap, and then one of us will just be like, "Got him." Yeah. Pause
for applause. Pause for applause.
Landon, I hope you get this figured out, bud.
Oh, he's so quiet. You
might need to just switch over and do the flip down and just have some crap audio from the headset.
Yeah. Let's start to drive this thing home, because I noticed from your first podcast to the recent one, you've cut it down to about an hour, and that is a good bite size. I've had podcasts that ran 4 hours, and I was like, man, that was interesting. It was cool. The longest one was with a teacher that went to South Africa and, a couple of different places there and taught different people all over the world and came up with a new video technique back in the day. And I was like, dang, that was good. But you gotta be mindful of the people that are listening as well. So I'm mindful of your time as well. And I hope that Landon gets his audio, because I do want you to give shout outs to the people that have helped you along the way. Jonny Schwentner. Did I get that? Did I pronounce that last name correctly?
It's Schwentner,
Yeah.
So my thing is, I think like literally everybody, has ever like been like listened, ever just like had the time of day to like talk with us, because it's really like no one person is more special in the process of life to me. Whether you're the guy who bags my groceries or you're Landon, like you all have a human value to me, and that's really how I like to live my life. It's like every human, regardless of status or whatever, is just like I thank you for existing, because even if you're the worst person ever to me, all the worst things you did to me gave me my best moments. So it's one of those things where it's like I just thank the world for existing,
Well, Landon, if you haven't gotten your audio correct, are you on your phone right now? Okay. Do you have your phone next to you? Call me on the phone. And this is how we get the audio for Landon.
All right, there we go. I have no idea what happened.
No problem, man. No problem. So give some shout outs to the people that have helped you along the way, Landon.
Oh man. Honestly, my brother Eric, my friend Nathan Storer, and definitely Garrett from our last podcast, and of course Jonny for being like the biggest supporter ever of me making content. But yeah, that's I don't really know who else to thank. The Questionable Guide podcast.
Well, good. I mean, and since from the first episode to now, you've actually developed some social media for your podcast. Let the people know how to get a hold of you on social media, or how do you want them to connect with you?
You want to take this, or you want me to take it?
So we actually only have an email right now set up for it, because we don't have a whole lot of things to tweet as of right now, because everything we do is kind of impromptu. That's kind of the appeal of the podcast. But you can actually get a hold of us with questions or potentially being a guest on the podcast at questionableguidecast@gmail.com.
Oh, and then we also do have a merch store now for random assorted goodies with our logo on it. And you can find that at redbubble.com/QGTL.
I thought that was the other way around. It was QGTL/Redbubble.
Yeah, it's QGTL.
Yeah, it might be that way. I don't know that. Just know it's on Redbubble, and either it's at the beginning of the website or at the end of the website. It's just the acronym for a questionable guide to life, QGTL. It's right now it's just our logo. But we've got hats, aprons, COVID masks, everything you could ever imagine on there. So,
well, you had some artwork for that Mosquatch. Are you able to use that and put that up on a T-shirt?
At some point we want to do it, but we want to do it like right. Like we want to if we're gonna bring Mosquatch into this world, we want to really like think that artwork through.
Yeah, we're gonna really wow with it, and we want it to be kind of our vision of Mosquatch.
All right, man. Well, I usually like to finish these things off with last words for the people. This could be like words to live by, something that you heard a long time ago, or just whatever pops into your head at this moment in time. I'm going to let Landon do his last words for the people, and then Jonny, you'll do your last words for the people, and then we'll take this thing home. And I hope that we reconnect over the years as things progress, man, and maybe this is part one, and we'll have more episodes to come back and forth between the Questionable Guide to Life and maybe the What Makes You Famous podcast. We have a little merger, in this area. And I like it when podcasts get on, because you have, for the most part, you've had great sound. For the most part.
Yeah.
But Landon,
hopefully I can get this mic fixed.
Landon, give the last words for the people that you have.
Honestly, just chase what you believe in, even if you think it's silly. Even if you think that you're the most ridiculous person in the world, and no one's going to want to watch what you create. If you create something, there's someone out there that's going to watch it. There's someone out there that's going to appreciate it. So appreciate yourself and appreciate the things that you make.
Very good. Jonny, last words for the people.
Last words for the people. I'm gonna make it humorous and not so serious. But there's, it's just like Jackie Moon always says, everybody love everybody. Just honestly, it's don't take life serious. Like I never will. It's like there's nothing either good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. It's just live, man. Like don't worry about what's in the bank account. Don't worry about what's on the table. Don't worry about what car you drive, who your friends are. Just enjoy every moment of it because you woke up this morning. That's all you need. You woke up this morning.
Well, there you have it, party people. Landon and Jonny, the Questionable Guide to Life podcast. Man, those kids, I say kids because I'm 52. I'm old enough to be their dads. No, they make me laugh, man, and I enjoy the conversations that they have with each other. And now it seems like they're going to have some guests coming in from time to time. If you'd like to be a guest, I encourage you to check them out. And you can talk about, it sounds like you could talk pretty much about whatever you want, whatever's on your mind. Having some fun with those boys, I tell you. And, I thought maybe there was a little alcohol involved, because sometimes their minds go out there. But no, that's natural. I'm going to get some slack on that one because, it's GIF, not GIF. GIF, not GIF. Listen to their podcast and you'll know why I said it's GIF, not GIF. There. All right, party people. Thank you so much to Landon and Jonny for being on the podcast, the What Makes You Famous podcast. Now, if you, yes, you, my loyal listener, would like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call, 501-470-6386, or email info@radiowhat.com. That's it for me. It's KeysDAN, radiowhat.com, djlittlerock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.